I call this meeting of the Lakota Local School District Facilities Committee meeting on October 3rd, 2022 to order. Mr. Zink, would you call the roll of the committee, please?
Ms. O'Connor,
Here.
Mr. Adi.
Here.
Ms. Casper,
Here.
Ms. Schaefer,
Here.
Ms. Bodie,
Here.
Mr. Passarge,
Here.
Mr. Miller,
Here.
Mr. Zink here, Mr. Hatfield,
Here.
and Ms. Fuller.
We'll move to approval of the agenda. Mr. Zink, would you please share with the board what that change is on the agenda?
Yeah, we just made a change to include, let me flip back the screen, sorry. Approval of changing the work session to a community meeting at Creekside on October 24th, 6:30 to 8.
And that should say it's a facilities community meeting, which is why it's relevant to this meeting.
Yeah, not community conversation.
Not a community conversation, it's a facilities.
Facilities community.
This is something Mrs. Fuller brought up at our last facilities meeting.
Yeah, so it would be a master facilities community meeting.
And that's already in the minutes from last meeting. I saw it, but we just didn't do a formal approval.
All right, with that change to the agenda, that's number 4 on the agenda now. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Adi. Discussion. Hearing none. Mr. Zink.
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Ms. Bodie,
Yes.
Ms. Casper,
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Passarge,
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield,
Yes.
Ms. Fuller,
Yes.
and Mr. Zink, yes.
Number 3, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes of the September 6th facilities meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Bodie. Thank you, Mrs. Casper. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Zink.
Ms. Bodie,
Yes.
Ms. Casper,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Passarge,
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield,
Yes.
Ms. Fuller,
Yes.
and Mr. Zink, yes.
Number 4, Mr. Zink, please read that motion one more time for us.
It's a motion to approve changing the work session on October 24th, 6:30 to 8 at Creeks to a facilities community meeting at Creekside. And I'm not saying that all right, but
Master Facilities Plan Community Meeting. All right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer. The chair will second. Mr. Zink,
Discussion.
Mrs. Bodie.
This is on to to ensure that this is the approval of the 24th. So I have concerns with, I understand that we need to have a master's facility community engagement, but we typically have those on Wednesdays. And my concern is March, June, July, September, and now October, we've only had one school board meeting, official school board meeting. And with 17,000 students and one of the biggest communities, or one of the biggest schools in Ohio, I hate to see us shortchange our students, and I think in the community by constantly moving and being ill prepared for meetings and silencing the community, not allowing them to speak. They really count on those meetings to have conversations and bring things forward. And we are not doing we are doing a disservice to our community and to our students by always changing the schedule. When we voted on it at the very beginning of the year, I would think that we should make our plans around these schedules and that were approved at the beginning of the year. And this is just very frustrating, not only for the community, but I think for those who are all here and participate when we plan these for our schedule. So I think we need to think about that before we continue to disrupt the schedule that we voted on. And I understand being flexible and things happen, but it's almost 1, 2, 3, that's 5 months out of the year. So far, we've only had one meeting.
So is that all?
Yes.
So I'll remind the board that the motion is to change the work session to a community meeting, which would involve the community participating. Is there other discussion, board? Mrs. Casper?
Well, I think one of the things that we have to remember is that we only have one school business meeting scheduled a month, and the second meeting is a work session for the board to actually delve deeper into a topic. But I think the thing that is hard that we have to remember is that we set those meetings at the beginning of the year, and we don't have any idea when conferences are or things like that. And we want the community here and we want their input, but I think we have to remember that the schedules of the 7 people that sit up here are the schedules we have to accommodate, because we don't know what's going to come up. And that, again, it's a business meeting. Board meetings are meetings that are held in public for business. They're not public meetings. And I think sometimes that might get a little confusing.
Well, Kelly, when you were president, we didn't have as many adjustments. So I don't know what the difference is between
A different year.
last year
We
and
did
this
have
year,
adjustments.
but not as many.
Well, it's
So
a
I'm
different year.
concerned about all of the, I mean, and if you look back at all the meetings in the past, this is really not the norm as far as how many meetings that we keep adjusting throughout the year. I mean, so I'm concerned about it.
Are there other comments, Mrs. Schaefer?
I mean, again, I think you mentioned that it's important to have our community involved and so that we can have conversations and bring things forward. And I think that's exactly what we're doing by switching this from a typical work session to a community meeting about facilities. I think that's a topic certainly right now that we need to have conversations with and give our community opportunities to bring things forward, as you stated, was an important purpose of our meeting. So I feel like this change will still allow us to facilitate the objectives of our meetings.
I agree with you, Mrs. Schaefer, and I think it's important to remember that we have a vote coming in November on our configuration. So the engagement with our community on this particular topic is even more important, I would say. Mr. D.
Yes, I think in my understanding, I think you should be maybe celebrating this change, because this is being changed to accommodate the community's participation. That's what it's all about. Community engagement.
Typically, we have those on Wednesdays, not Mondays.
Whatever the school decides, we have to leave it up to whoever. Betsy and Chris and the architects, I think that's.
Well, we just need to be mindful that we're not silencing the community, because that's what it looks like.
I would disagree that we're trying to silence them, but I understand what you're saying.
Mr. Zink, do you have anything? Mr. Miller, anything?
No, I don't have anything in regards to changing
No.
the meeting, the
Other
work
committee
session to
members?
the master facility.
Mrs. Fuller, you had made the request. Did you want to speak for a moment?
Well, the reason we made the suggestion was because we were having a hard time finding a date where Matt and Chris and Adam were all available to do another community meeting. We wanted to get at least one more in addition to the one at Liberty Township before the board votes on the grade band configuration. Because everybody had already scheduled October 24th, that Monday, and there was not, Adam didn't feel like that was needed for finances, which I believe is what it was originally scheduled to be about. That's why we made the suggestion to change it to master facilities community meeting.
Thank you. And I would disagree with the characterization that making it a community meeting is silencing our community. So is there any further discussion, board? Hearing none. Mr. Zink, would you call the roll?
Ms.
And
Schaefer?
maybe you'd repeat the motion one more time for us.
I say this right. Motion to approve changing the work session to master facilities community meeting at Creekside, 6:30 to 8 on October 24th. All right. Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor,
Yes,
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Ms. Bodie,
Yes.
Ms. Casper,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Sarge,
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield,
Yes.
Ms. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Zink, yes.
Thank you. We'll move on our agenda to number 5, review the operational savings for options, excuse me, 1, 3, and 4. And I assume we have something in writing to look at?
A little something. Well, what we worked on it at the exact team today. I think Chris might have a couple things printed off.
By the way, while we're passing, I do want to ask, I think I might have said this before, but I know it's a committee meeting, but when we do have members of the audience, not an issue tonight, it's nice to have whatever we're doing up on the screen so that people are able to see what we're doing. And this is also a recording. Those are the minutes for our meeting. So I think that would be good to have it up there when we can, please. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
So we're looking at operating costs. We're still at a very high level looking at the options and what could be and what we know now. There's still a lot more detail that could drive these. So these are very rough estimates about, Craig and I talked earlier today about looking at just from a child nutrition perspective and a custodian perspective on what kind of operational changes could we expect based on the various options. So we looked at that. Let's give you an example, and Craig, chime in whenever you feel. So we know option 1 is our current configuration, is where we are right now. And that's how many total staffing positions we have within the child nutrition department. And just to let you know, even with our current configuration, we're still 29 positions short of being totally filled. So with the staffing struggles that we see across many areas, option 1, even though we're designated to have 136, we're still short 29. Is that correct, Craig?
Yeah, that's correct. And a lot of those positions, and I think we had made note of this before, is pertaining to those anywhere from 2 3/4, 3 hour, 3.5 hour positions. Those are the more challenging ones to fill. But typically, and it's high turnover too. So a lot of the times where, you had mothers, grandparents, fathers that would like to have the opportunity to drop their child off in the mornings and then maybe spend 3 to 4 hours working in a cafeteria or a kitchen. That's not what we're seeing anymore. So yeah, if we were fully staffed at 136, we would be in very good standing. But right now we're 29 positions open. So that doesn't mean we don't have all of them filled, because we do have substitutes that are not interested in being full-time, or I'm sorry, consistent regular employees. They just choose to be a substitute. So they, plus their schedules fluctuates, but that in good standing is where we would be if we were fully operational. So a lot of your specials, there's a lot of reducing the menu opportunities, whether we have those items from supply chain demand issues or not. A lot of that pertains to staffing, but I do feel that our child nutrition department went above and beyond to make sure, this has been a good season when it comes to children having the opportunities and selections in the cafeteria. So still challenges present from that standpoint.
So we consider option 1, as we've talked about many times, as sort of our baseline of where we are today. So we move into the option 3, the new grade configuration and the building configuration. So based on those 10 buildings that have been deemed insufficient by the OFCC that we plan on closing, there's 54 positions that would be impacted there. But bringing on the new staff and the new buildings would be 29. So a net of what, 25 positions?
Yeah, if you took the 54 out of the 10 that we were considering taking offline with the hours per day, because it's not typical, those are not FTEs. I mean, they're broken down into smaller hour increments. So the 54 total with option 3, and then when you put in the new staffing requirements with the other facilities that would be newer, that would be basically 29 positions with a reduction total of 25. And as you can see, that would be the staffing variance that Chris and I tried to at least give an example as of today. We're always looking to hire and maneuver and position, but that's essentially where we would be based on the reduction within the department as per, our typical arrangement of buildings going to what we would have in option 3, as well as Adam helping with some of the salary reductions of what it total would be within the department. And that was 184 contracted days at a medium range of $15 an hour. And then one note about option 3, I did put that on there because we wanted to make sure that none of the staffing would be pertained to the shared facility, because that's the option number 3 that has the shared building. So we didn't know where we would be and what opportunities, whether you'd have a kitchen staff or no staff or kitchen, but that's where we just left the baseline with nothing being there when it came to staffing.
Kind of a lot of preliminary, sorry, my voice is, I'm dealing with cold. But there's a lot of preliminary assumptions that, one, the shared facility, that would reduce the cost of creating the shared facility if we didn't have to have a kitchen inside of it. But at this time, it was assumed that there would not be lunches served at that shared facility in option 3.
The kids would still go back to their home high school or come from their home high school.
Correct.
And again, that could change as we get deeper into the analysis and look at it and because we really don't even know yet what's going to be really at that building yet. So once we have a better definition of what courses and opportunities are going to be at that shared options high school, that may dictate whether we have to maneuver and provide lunch there or not. And maybe it's not a full kitchen, maybe it's another way to provide that that's a little bit different.
So the Butler Tech Bioscience Facility, which is here in Westchester, it was an interesting look at how this was being done, and definitely a different way to do it with vending machines and fresh food brought in every day that was
Right.
different and varied. I think it's great to leave ourselves open on what we could do with that differently.
Almost like a grab and go.
A lot like a grab and
Grab and
go.
go, or
Yeah.
some satellite opportunities,
Exactly.
mobile carts. so
And
forth.
depending on what businesses we have, I mean, might be a business interested in working with our kids doing some of that too. So
Food truck ports.
There you go.
So this basically if we're currently paying for 136, but then we will be paying for 54 positions. And we're still gaining the income from the taxes, and that doesn't change, right? All the income that we have coming in, but what we're paying out is less. So
In that example, this one's in relation to the child nutrition.
right,
So that's kind of self-funded with the reimbursement we get from federal and state,
Yeah.
as well as the lunches, the costs that we provide, or the costs that we charge to the students for purchasing the meals or the a la carte items.
So that
So
means
by-
it's not coming out of the general fund.
It's not coming out of the general fund. That's correct. And by reducing some of these costs, that'll also help stabilize those lunch prices for our students and our community.
okay. I mean, because I see us gaining substantial amounts of money to kind of put elsewhere for our schools once, and even towards the bill of having this master's facilities plan completed. I mean, we're saving money by going down in buildings and the new
Is
rate
part of the point in
configuration.
considering this.
Yeah,
Yeah, since child nutrition is an enterprise fund, it's got to be self-funded. So reducing the operations and helping us be able to stay self-funded and not have to dip into the general fund to help support it, because by law, it cannot run in the negative. If you do run into the negative, you have to fund dollars to support that. So, and it also looks at the equity portion too. Where, we got to be within a certain range of what the federal government reimburses us for our meal prices. So if we can be on that lower range by being more efficient and doing that stuff, that really helps our parents who have to pay for those lunch prices. So that they would feel impact by us reducing that. We could keep our lunch prices at the lower range compared to what they would have to be.
Have we also found a bit of an opportunity to maybe offer better products by getting that savings? You know, maybe we could offer better food options or choices. That's a way you could value add it as well.
we have good options now,
Yeah, we do.
the orange chicken.
but more variety.
Yeah, but the great configurations change and the way you can serve and do things would change as well. You want to go into option 4?
Yeah, option 4, similar to option 3. I mean, we were, if you looked at the current staff in those affected buildings that we would close, you're looking at 54 positions, around 241 hours daily. With the new school staffing estimates, it would be 31 position. So there's another difference. Option 3 was 29, not as many, just because if you look at that grade configuration and that building structure with the 2 new high schools, I mean, those would be some major staffing proponents, but I do feel that it would be substantial to at least have that 23 position savings, which is, not very far off from the 29 in option 2. Or option 3, I'm sorry. So option 4 would essentially be a reduction of 23 positions, with that salary being estimated around 280,000.
So less than a 10% variance between option 3 and 4.
Yeah. And and I still go even with option 3 at 29 positions, and then or 25 positions in option 4 with a reduction of 23. I would like to be thankful that we still have 29 positions open, and those could help fill those. So our staffing, we would keep them within house and build on our current labor needs.
Any other questions on the child nutrition staffing
Yes,
savings?
yes, just for clarification. I want to know this total reduction for how long? What, a month?
I think that's an
300.
annual number.
yeah,
Is that
that's
what
an
you're
an-
asking?
I don't know.
280?
Okay, gotcha.
What it would be for that.
Okay,
And that was just based on a static $15 an hour estimate right now. So, as the agreements change and stuff, that savings would not be less than.
I think too, that I think we would all agree that the reductions would hopefully be done through attrition and things like that, and we're a long way off. So we don't, we don't have a crystal ball, but we're not doing anything to put people out of jobs. We're just trying to right size with our facilities, and hopefully these can be done through attrition and time.
All right, any other questions on child nutrition savings? All right, go on.
I had a printer issue, so I'll get this to you, but we also did look at just custodians as another option as well. So if you look at our current setup, and I'll get this to you, I'm sorry, I couldn't get it to print right. Our current option 1, we have total of 97 custodians currently, which is 72 shift custodians, 23 head custodians. And 2 that are what we call main building, like
Your building maintenance. We do have 2 building
The
maintenance that
maintenance,
are
yeah, the high
assigned to the high school.
yeah, so they're like part-time maintenance, part-time custodian, so we count those as part of our shift as well. So 97 total FTEs that support our current structure right now. Based on option 3, we would reduce that to 92.5 FTEs. So where you see the most reduction would be in your head custodian category. Your shift custodians would remain about the same because you still have the square footage is roughly not too far off from that aspect with the shared facility. So really you'll see and head custodians are typically your more seasoned and more expensive of the custodian staff. So that's where you see the bulk of it, but you still with that, based off that reduction of $18 per hour for a 260-day contract, roughly $168,000 per year for custodians for option 3.
Which, just to add to what Chris said, that was a 4.5 employee reduction from what we have currently, which is what we reference option 1 to what it would be in option 3. And what we did was we looked at the square footage of the new buildings, the ones that were going offline. So naturally, that's a reduction of your staffing. However, when we looked at the new buildings, we looked at the square footage. So what we based it on is the average square footage was be 35,000, what one custodian would clean, 30 to 35,000 square feet. But based on, what the square footing would be of that building is how many we assign to the new building. Which your early childhoods come in on a lower end of maybe a staff employee cleaning 30,000 square feet, and then each square footage increase going to your elementaries, to your junior highs, high school, sometime that increases. And that's how we base the current staffing, which still assigning the new employee or for the new buildings, the staffing, we would have a 4.5 person reduction to option 3.
So that seems like to me that would be on the conservative side potentially
Yes.
of what the savings would be.
Yeah, I mean, and basically these numbers are very conservative just to make sure we were at least giving the example and try to give some of the not as detailed, but still simplify it so we could have room for adjustment.
Sure.
And something to think about on the custodial side of an FTE. One FTE is, when you include the benefits and all, actually only 64% of their total package would be in the wage section. So you're looking at close to $60,000 per FTE is what we're at. Salaries and fringes all in. And those are general funded employees.
So is that captured in these savings, or did we just do base salary in these with no
It was
fringes?
base salary.
Yeah.
So
Took a
we're
median, sort of
basically
a-
underestimating them by a third.
It gets a
Conservative.
little bit trickier when you go looking at it. That would be assuming they had like a family plan of benefits and things like that. So,
Yep.
we can guarantee the salary, but not knowing who we did or didn't fill the positions with, it could go up to that 60,000 mark.
And how did you get the numbers for the newer buildings? Did you add up like the early childhood and find an average building square footage?
We did the square footage to the new buildings as to what they were assigned from the architects, what they estimated. So if you look at, for example, option 3, I'd have to, you've got 3 new K5s. So we took what the architect had. I can't remember if those 3 were 121,000 square feet. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that's how we broke it down. How many employees would be needed for that 30 to 40,000 square feet? And we took the average, which was 35,000, on how much they would clean per one employee.
Have you given us the square footage of the proposed buildings?
I think all of those are in the original drawings there that the architects and we provided before.
Okay. I'll go
I
through
didn't
them.
bring them today, but we do have them, but we could go back and I could help find just so you can have that as a reference.
I think you provided it to us already.
It's a lot of information. I even had to go through and find to make sure we had those numbers. But
So are we saying that there's already a plan on what these buildings will look like potentially?
no,
From
just the
architect?
architects,
Just-
the
It's just
expectation.
based on student population. Basically, it's a math equation depending on, if we take down away 10, we still have 17,000 kids. What size of the building would it be to accommodate those?
Accommodate the kids, okay.
So-
The architect plan.
No, there's no architect plan, and that's just a general ballpark estimate.
Mathematically,
Yeah,
Yep.
it's
And
in
then
it's in the OFCC.
It also takes
binder.
into account the Ohio School Facilities Commission
Right,
ratios that we
they're-
have to honor.
Right, I think it's like 25 per
900 square.
for 900 square feet, then the number of kids that you're gonna have, and number of buildings, so it's really a math equation at that point.
okay, thank you.
Something else, kind of this layout. Is this something that the board kind of likes to see as a layout of how we can get the savings? Because
Yeah.
this example is only one set of staff.
Mhm.
We would like to be able to put this together. We've roughly worked on some custodial, but also to put that together on all aspects of our staff,
Yes.
all the way through administration, the whole way. But knowing the way you guys would kind of like to see this would also be extraordinarily helpful.
I think this is a good high level look.
Yes.
Board, are you all right with this?
It
I'd
is.
prefer a spreadsheet myself, so then we can
Yeah.
quantify it all.
Sure.
And look at it line by line. I think this would be data that would be easily accommodated in a spreadsheet.
We can have
Maybe,
both to accommodate everybody's styles.
There you
maybe
go.
maybe in a,
Yeah, I like,
in a
No,
way, we could think about it like a spreadsheet, be like a forecast, and these could be like the assumptions. That way we
Exactly.
kind of know how it was developed.
Yeah, once we get into
That was a good
Nitty
segue.
gritty, something on a spreadsheet is better once we get, but since we're at an overall like 30,000 feet.
Just really enjoy doing forecast stuff. So helping me get there.
Just by way of comparison, Chris, we're correct. Like when you talk about openings for child nutrition, how does that compare to with custodian maintenance right now? Do you have any openings, or are you pretty much full?
Custodian, we're around four staff members.
Okay.
And that's just due to recent relocation, resignation.
Just
yeah,
curious.
Around four,
Okay,
4 FTEs.
so a handful.
Yeah.
And that's probably common.
Struggled a lot more through the COVID piece. We had
Yeah.
9, 10
Okay.
out. But now we're a little bit better in that area for sure. Maintenance, we typically don't have an issue to fill. It's really the custodians we have the issue. Maintenance, we fill up, no problem.
Thank you.
So
And that's,
is there more?
Yeah, we were,
Option 4?
Option 4, really, you go from 97 to 87, and the bulk of that would be really the head custodian again as well. We go from 23 to 16, and from the staff, we go from 72 to 69 per shift. So overall, a 10 reduction. Again, we estimated just a base salary of $18, so that'd be $374,000 of annual savings. Then if you look at the benefit part of it as well, would be added to that.
Somewhere you could say somewhere in that range of 600 down to the 380.
Right. So.
so when you're I know you don't have the information in front of you, but just for a quick reference, option 3 was 4.5 savings and option 4 was 10 employees per FTEs per those different options. So, and we can get that information to you. So you have a better understanding of where, because we broke them down into how many per building, how many shift custodians, and how many head custodians. So that way you'll have the breakdown for each building.
And again, like mentioned earlier, based on that normal rotation of, staff coming and going, there's no reason to believe that there'd be any kind of reduction. It would just be an attrition.
Oh, most definitely. I think we've had 2 or 3 people mentioning retirement as of last week. So I'm sure that's forthcoming as we get through the school year or calendar year.
Anything else on the custodians?
yeah, let me make a request. I know as we're narrowing down close to decision day, are we going to wait till the next meeting before we get this breakdown? Because I love to see this. I may not necessarily need the expression like she wants because I don't have time. But if I can see a summary of each breakdown for each option, 3 and 4, it will be very, very, very both. So do we have to wait till the next facility meeting before?
Yes, I would believe that would be, hopefully we could have that by then.
Yes, we just have a couple areas we've covered here, but we still need to get into a deep dive about, we have nurses, we have instructional aides, we have.
Secretaries.
Yeah.
This
Office
is a very
managers.
limited view.
This is almost like to say, are we in the right direction?
Right,
Yeah,
so
That's kind of,
Trends, what are the trends?
So I'm with Mr. Adi on this. I would like to see it before the next facilities meeting.
Please.
As the work is prepared, perhaps it could be sent out to us so that we're
Okay.
building that picture before the next meeting.
Mm.
Again, our vote on configuration is coming in November.
Yes.
And as of right now, we have one meeting in November and our facilities meeting is right before that meeting. And I think you're not giving the board enough of a chance to really delve into what that looks like.
yeah, because one of the biggest areas that I believe that we're going to see a save is going to be within the transportation. And we're still waiting on those numbers to come back.
Okay.
And so, with that, the one option not only could potentially have some economy of scale savings of transportation, but it's also going to include a shuttle service that would increase some of that cost. So getting some of that numbers will be a lot better for everybody.
and part of that transportation I'm still working through, and I'll do it both ways because there hasn't been a decision made. Because right now we don't offer 9th grade transportation. If we go to 9-12 buildings, we're going to offer high school transportation or not. So we'll try to break it down to how that impacts the overall transportation piece, so you can see it with or without high school transportation. And we have a better feeling about that. And we also have to look too at these options. Right now, we pretty much understand we're on a 3-tier system and how they run. we'd have to figure out what tier, who's going to be on what tier for 3 and who would be on what tier for 4, to break it down, because it's pretty simple right now. All the junior highs are all the same, all the elementaries are the same, and all the ECSs are the same. And these other options, they probably will be like we used to have it at Lakota. Some ECSs had different times and some elementaries had different times. So we have to get into that level of detail for transportation for them to try to plan it and route it. And right now they're just trying to keep their head above water. So
And
we're struggling with that.
Potentially, transportation potentially could be more in 3 and 4, because if we bus our high schoolers from 912, then we're busing parochial 912, correct?
By law, we have to.
Right, I know we have to, so that would increase our transportation costs because we're not currently doing, and when we figured that out, it's what, additional 36 buses, do I remember that correctly, to do?
Yeah, at our peak, when I first arrived, when we did everything, we were at 221 routes. Was at our peak. Right now, we're at 180.
How many routes? I mean, I know we have this somewhere. You told us how many routes would be parochial,
Private or parochial.
private or parochial, yeah.
It would probably be close to 40.
So those are additional.
But we're also reducing the number of buildings and elementaries and the rest. So understanding that balance
Right, yeah.
is going to be important for us.
It is. And just trying to, and it's hard for them because they have to go in and create something that's not even there yet when they route. They need to know bodies where they are to have that system work like that. So, and that's where we're struggling because we don't have it set up yet how it would be. So we'll have to make some assumptions of who's going to be early, who's going to be late. They may not be the case when it comes down to the final decision, but we'll look at that. And a lot of times your bell times are based on your transportation tiers and how you can run that, because you typically need 50 minutes to an hour in between runs to drop off and go out and do your next runs to get back to your school. So that would impact that as well.
So you haven't in any way talked about just sheer savings from less buildings. Is that information forthcoming as well?
Yeah, we shared before, our estimated for utilities. We talked about utilities. With that, we talked about the last time we shared the cost avoidance for projects that we know are going to come up, from roofs to parking lots and things like that. We have a good idea with that. Part of it is timing and when we go forward with the master plan and when things are due and up. So that may have an impact as well. How much longer do we continue to Band-Aid before we invest into something new? So trying to balance that out as well. But was it the last meeting or the meeting before, we had a basic operational savings? They had utilities and cost avoidance that would be added to some personnel pieces here now.
Can you pull that all together in a summary when all this is put together?
Yep, I think that would be the best way of doing this.
I think so too. So we're all looking at exactly the same data, making sure everybody sees everything.
Yeah, and we haven't even talked about teaching staff yet or anything, or administration, or what that.
Certified admin.
Right,
A lot more to go.
there's a lot.
Yeah, we had some numbers thrown around today, but I think that before we would want to go into those, we'd want to kind of isolate it a little bit better to make sure that we were not over or underestimating something for the board.
Right.
I think that's fair.
Board, any further questions on number 5, the operational savings for options 1, 3, and 4?
I mean, again, I feel like we need a lot more detail than what we have at this point. I think there's a lot of opportunity here for operational savings that we're not quantifying yet. And I think that'll be an important part of the story.
Something I'd like to throw out to that too is just like that third building, depending on what programs we put in that third building could really drive what type of kind of savings we could have or value add by additional programming. So a lot of that stuff also will kind of come together as we know more on what the plans could be.
Yeah, I think we can just make those some rough estimates at this point. Clearly, it is going to be all based on assumptions, like you said, similar to the 5-year forecast. It's only as good as its assumptions. As long as we know that and know what the variables are, then I think we can adjust from there. But I would hate to see us not quantify that simply because there's a lot of hard to define variables. You know, for example, I personally, when I see this as just salary and finding out that that's only 64% of the expense, you know, that takes that 574 to 374 rather to like 584. So that's a huge difference. And that
Potentially,
value add
yes.
there. Yeah.
Mhm.
And the reality is there are benefits costs. So,
Absolutely. In fact, that's one of our biggest expenses. So.
right.
And we're guessing at what that'll be in 2028, correct?
Yeah.
I like to a lot of times say, let's just assume a family plan.
Yep.
Because they're allowed to have up to that, or eventually they will. I'm gonna throw out there that I started out with a single plan and now I've worked my way into a family. So
Well, or again,
It
look at the
happens.
ratio of what we have right now amongst our custodial staff, you
The
know,
next-
at 10% or single, whatever.
that's part of also, we can be conservative in those
Yeah.
assumptions by doing it that way.
If we have more savings, no one will complain, we promise.
But we also don't want to underestimate either because
No,
it goes into your
as-
decision
As
making.
close as we can be, obviously. Any other questions on number 5?
I just assume that the board wants Chris to do the work on 9th grade busing and 9-12 busing, just to see the difference.
Well, I think both of those plans have 9-12 in the same buildings. Have we ever offered 9th grade busing and not 10, 11, and 12 when they're in the same building? I
That's
mean,
really my question.
that's going to be a tough sell to the community.
Right.
Yes, your 9th grader can get on the bus, but your 10th grader can't.
Right.
So I think we have to factor in the cost of busing high school or no busing high school. I don't know if we can pull out 9th. That would be a,
I know
And
Fairfield does.
to make
9
it
and 10
clear for
only.
the community,
From-
we have to offer it by grade level across to private
Right.
parochial. If we do it for 9th, then we're doing it for all of those private
Right.
parochial schools as well.
Chris, can you
That's
say
not
that?
always clear that that's state law.
Yeah, and
You say that
Chris was
again.
pointing out what Fairfield does.
Yeah, because Fairfield has a standalone 9th grade building, but they also do 10th grade. So they do 9th and 10th grade only. So
and I'd imagine by 11th grade, your kid's not going to want to ride a bus and they're going to find another way to school. Either they're driving or with friends. I mean, Mason offers 9-12 and I know that they have very few 11th and 12th graders on these buses.
And Chris, remind us, as I recall from previous conversations, even if a 11th and 12th grader never steps foot on the bus, we essentially have to hold a spot for them when we're routing.
when we plan for the year, you assume they're all going to ride because you can't not assume if too many people show up. We didn't plan for that, then we're going to be in a real bind. So we can look at our processes and how we do that. By law, if we offer it, we can't have them sign up for it because they can change their mind at any time and
Right,
say, I
right.
need it.
And I recall we tried to do a survey, it wasn't a sign up, but it was just a interest survey and everyone signed up just in case, you know,
It's
Johnny
like
car
now,
breaks down.
everybody signs up saying, yeah,
Just in
I
case,
may need it,
right.
but they may never use it. But
And we
just in
have to
case,
really
or
just-
Right.
if I'm going to punish my kid, you can't have your car, you got to take the bus. They want to have that as an option and they sign up for it.
And by state law, again, we can't charge.
Right.
We can't,
Can't
there are
charge.
many restrictions on how we can do transportation.
Any.
So, but with the fewer schools, that may, even if we just stay exactly where we are and provide it to all kids, maybe that's a benefit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just
If we can
based
do
on
that at a
on
wash.
kids, Right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I would really like to be able to offer to everyone just because we have so many students and I know, I mean, I didn't get my license till I was 18. You know, there was just no need for me to do so. So I know that there's other people out there that do not have their license and children aren't, not everyone is motivated to drive at 16. So, and I know that there's families that could really benefit from offering high school busing, K through 12.
Did you ride a bus your entire 4 years?
No. It's a long story.
Yeah, I agree. I
It
mean,
involved, yeah, it involves a boyfriend and all that stuff. So
It
anyway.
would be great to offer that, but again, it's the balance of, then you offer it to the private and parochial and how much more is that? But
It's
yeah,
the cost of it. And
it's why we've struggled for the 5 years I've been on the board every year with high school busing because of that. If it was just us busing our students, I don't think it would be as much of a
topic every year, but it's just such the cost to do everyone, so. Or it's also, to your point, it's people who then find a ride with somebody else and typically aren't taking the bus. So we're paying for a service that instead they're
It's
riding
not
with
being
their friends.
utilized.
I mean, we used to get complaints when we offered busing for high school that people would see the buses leaving the high schools and they would be empty, and they felt that was an inefficient use of their tax dollars. So there's both sides of
There's a
that for
balance,
sure.
Yeah.
Well, can we cancel route by route and not, instead of just canceling?
You
If
have
we
to,
offer it, we have to offer it.
Yeah, we have to give it to, offer it to everybody and route it, because on Tuesday, you may not need the bus because you're riding with your boyfriend, but on Wednesday, you had a fight with your boyfriend and now you need to ride to school. So we have to save that spot. If we say at the beginning, we're gonna do it, then we have to like potentially hold it.
Right.
Yeah, that's the balancing act, and then you need a crystal ball. Can you take this in?
All right, anything else? Opinions, thoughts, questions, concerns, information we need. So what I'm hearing from the board is there's a lot more information that we need to receive, and let's receive it prior to November 7th as it becomes available. And then perhaps at the end, once you feel there's all the information gathered, summary,
And bring it all together.
bring it all together so that everyone's making decisions based on the same information. Anything else, board, on?
On number 5, review questions. I just have a question, a discussion. I know that at the last, I don't know, one meeting, we talked about not picking a plan in November, just picking a grade configuration. I would like the board to entertain some conversation at some point about when we think we would do a plan, because to Chris's point,
So let's move to questions.
oh, I thought that's where we were. We're not on number 5.
No, I was trying to confirm that we were, sorry, actually, number 5 and 6 changed with our agenda. change,
Oh,
so
that's right. Sorry.
that was the confusion. So I was going to ask Mr. Zink to start off with, I think, something that will address your question, Mrs. Casper.
Cool.
Yes,
Mr. Zink, I find myself a bit puzzled by the timeline that we've set forward, and I'm wondering if you can kind of walk through that. We have 2 newer board members that may not have heard all of that information. Maybe you can help us all understand.
Yeah, one of the
Timeline.
issues, I believe, and if you've read my weekly updates, you've seen those in there since pretty much the beginning. One of the issues that I'm running into with the timelines is that there's some ways that we can achieve doing these based on the timelines that we've kind of been presenting, but it's going to be extraordinarily difficult to do them with aligning with the millage drop that we have that's in 28. In order to get there, we would probably not physically be able to go to the ballot in 2023 because it would have too much lag between when we would want to collect on it and when we would be going to the voters. So something that I think is worth noting is there is an option that we could get there without having to collect until that came about in 28, but it would include financing the first 3 years worth of payments. So we wouldn't be able to do that until 24. And personally, I'm just going to say that I don't like the idea of that, just because I don't think that we should finance things that we wouldn't have to finance to be fiscally responsible. So that was something that I learned about today better. And I believe that's new news.
Well,
So,
And we're in a deficit in 2024, and then we would additionally be paying for,
no, it wouldn't do that. It would be a part of the bond that we would
Part of
go
the
to
bond.
the community for. We would actually be including in that 3 years worth of payments. So I just am speaking personally that I don't really like that idea. So
So
to line up better with the timing of the millage falling off, we would be pushing out somewhere closer to 27
for what?
To going on the ballot?
to going into the ballot into 27, so that then we would start construction in 28 and begin the collection with taxpayers.
What's that going to cost us in things that, I mean, water is coming up to the floor of some of our buildings. I worry that we're going, at what point does that balance of the big things that we are going to have to do prior to doing the 27
Sure.
ballot?
And with Chris coming back today, that was one of the points that I brought up was we really need to get a really good grasp on what major projects that we have. Because then the business side of it might say that this still makes sense based on, we don't want to put $30 million worth of things into buildings that we're going to get rid of. That doesn't make sense. But until we have that information, at best, it would be 24 to do the 3-year bridge that we would be allowed to do by law.
Right. What, I mean, what about picking, I mean, we know that when we pick a plan, it's not like we're gonna pick a plan and then tomorrow we're gonna dig dirt. So what is the harm? I understand the timeline not maybe going in 23. But what is the harm of us narrowing down a plan so that we can get more specific information, more specific savings, more specific locking in, even locking in a rate at that point? What is the downside of picking a plan if we don't act on it? And because we pick a plan doesn't mean we have to stick to the timeline that says we're going on the ballot in November. If we think going on the ballot in 24 is better, but we still have a plan.
We would definitely want to get a plan. Definitely, let's move forward with getting a plan on which one of these things we might want to do. Absolutely, definitely do that. But as far as the rate lock, it's not quite the same as like when you're doing a home.
Right, okay.
You have to get the ballot approved in order to lock those rates and sell those bonds.
And what, to lock in the UFCC percentage, you have to pay for it in 12 months, correct? You have to say how you're gonna finance it. If we would lock in
You
the,
have to say you're going on the ballot, or you're going to find some other kind of. means of
You have
financing.
12 months. Once, if you decide to participate with the OFCC and you say you want to do the ELP program,
Mhm.
you have 12 months to go through and get your funding for that. If
Yeah,
not,
okay,
then you got to
that's what I thought.
reapply again. So going back to Adam's point, I think it does no harm for us to develop a plan and have a plan ready.
right?
When we execute the plans is a totally different discussion.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Let's have the plan ready. It could be everything, all the details worked out. We know who's going to go where, when it's executed. So we can have that all laid out. To have a plan ready, I think would be great, but when we execute it, that would be the further discussion.
I just think we've spent a lot of time at these community meetings and talking to people and taking them into our buildings and saying that we're going to choose a plan. And I think not choosing a plan is just kind of misleading. And I don't think that choosing a plan isn't we're breaking ground tomorrow. It's like, this is the plan. We're going to find out how much it's going to cost. We're going to tweak it. Because like we said, let's pretend we pick plan 4. Well, maybe there's something in 2 that we like that we can put into 4. And, it's kind of a hybrid thing. All of that work can be done prior to going forward. And I don't think it's a bad idea to pick a plan in November. Again, not talking about putting a levy on the ballot in the 23 and not talking about financing it or breaking ground, on Friday. I'm just saying, let's get a plan. We've been talking about it. We've been investigating, or we've been researching it. We've been having community meetings. We've been getting feedback. Let's pick a plan and go from there.
So I wonder if a little bit of this is how we're defining plan. And maybe we should understand that better for each other. In my mind, in November, we pick the configuration. We say,
You
this
pick
is,
an option.
I would pick an option. What I would not pick is the cost of that option. What I would not say is, I think $500 million for option 4 is okay. But, if that's the plan we decide to pick,
Okay.
I would be comfortable with, this is a configuration. Let's see how we can reduce those costs. Let's bring back in our business community that has experience in this, for example, and have them help us find some other ways to bring our costs down on this. How can we do, my question would be, if we went with option 4, how can we do this in the most cost-effective way possible? And I actually really like the fact that we'd have some extra time to have those conversations and try working on the most cost-effective way to deliver option 4, if that's what we do.
If that's what we decide. I
agree with you also, and I think that's a good part of the conversation. Are there other pieces or parts? Is there a hybrid? We're not wed to anything.
right. But it's a starting
If there's
point. I feel
something
like,
that we feel is important, I think we're in the same place, Kelly.
okay.
I'm
I
just
thought we
not
were
willing to say that's the cheapest way we can do it.
I just thought we were talking about only picking a gray configuration in November. So if we're talking about picking an option and not going forward and having further discussion, because I also get concerned about the cost of waiting till 27 to put a levy on the ballot, a bond on the ballot, because of what we're dealing with in some of our aging buildings. So I am comfortable saying, let's pick an option and see how we can best do that option.
The other thing it would do, once we pick an option collectively, it gives us more time to work on locally funded initiatives. So we wanted to do something with a business community,
Right.
or we want to do something with a
A
pool or
hospital.
something like
Yeah.
that, or,
Give us more
it gives
time.
us time to say, here's conceptually the option we're going with.
Right,
Who wants to be a part of this for our kids and for our community?
right.
Is where I was really getting nervous about this was, sorry, but it's because of, if we really went to the ballot in 23, I would hate to ever think that we would put something on the ballot and assume it wouldn't pass. So if we put something on the ballot in 23 and then we don't break ground until closer to 28, I have a real hard time believing that the community wouldn't be thinking, what are we doing?
Right.
You
And
know.
I wouldn't, as a community member, be comfortable with that.
Me as a taxpayer would as well. I mean,
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not advocating to go on the ballot in 23. If you think as our chief financial officer that that's a bad move.
yeah, I think.
But
we
I
need to look
do
at that.
think we have got to stop. We got to fix something. We've got to put an option in place so that we can dive deeper into savings and business partners.
I think picking what we think that looks like and then making it the best plan that it could be, whether it's finances or whatever, is the right route to go. Mrs. Bodie?
Yes, I mean, I agree. I think we easily get sidetracked by the money, and this is what the buildings should look like. And I think we need to figure out what we want to put into the buildings first, and then what does that look like? So again, then we kind of talk about the hybrid aspect of the buildings, or what exactly would work best for our students. But I think the grade configuration is the best place to start, which ultimately could be option 4, but I don't know if that's what it's going to look like exactly. And we want to make sure that we pick that grade configuration and then look on the money and the financial aspects and then what that looks like.
Other questions?
Can
for
I
Ms.
ask a
Brazee?
question? If we believe that the operational cost savings would be a major driver of the selection of the grade configurations, would you be okay to giving us until December to make sure we can give you guys as comprehensive and as good of estimates as we possibly could come up with? I'm just going, I know Betsy's probably going, what is he doing? I'm sorry about that, but there's going to be
He's
a lot of.
asking for a delay in the vote so that we have a full financial package in front of us. I don't think that's unreasonable. It sounds like you just got information today.
If that is a 50,000 foot view and it's not going to be the biggest driver versus the grade bands, then I think November will be able to get you enough information to get you where you need to be. But if the operational cost savings is going to be the end all be all kind of, if you could give us an extra month, I would really appreciate that.
Well, you're going to be busy with the 5-year forecast as well in November, so
That's
you've got a
correct.
little bit going on
That,
with that.
yeah, that's correct.
Any objections?
So we're going to delay everything until December. So
No, we'll keep doing the work. We'll
No,
keep
no, I mean-
moving forward, but
But it would.
what would be delayed would be the final vote.
Yes.
Can I clarify that for a second? So the final vote on a plan or the final vote on a grade band?
I feel like it has to be, we've been talking about it this way. I feel like it has to be one and the same. So if we are going to pick an option or a plan, then I'm fine with waiting till December to do that. I think it doesn't really make sense to pick a grade band in November and then a plan in December, when honestly, we've all pretty much stated what grade band choice we are leaning towards. It's just which option.
And aren't 3 and 4 the same grade?
3 and 4 are the same
So
grade
haven't we
configuration.
essentially
So we've
already
kind of
picked grade
picked the
bands?
grade
I mean,
configuration because
that's how I feel.
we've asked them to deep dive into 3 and 4. So I don't think it's necessary in November to have a vote on grade configuration and then in December, a vote on the option.
How about voting on grade configuration now?
What, right now?
Yeah.
can't
We
run a
don't-
committee meeting.
We don't do votes in
Can't do
committee
votes.
meetings.
Doing a committee
No.
meeting?
And I feel like Julie's right. We kind of already have because we're asking for information on 3 and 4. And 3 and 4 are the same grade
You
configuration.
can vote in a committee meeting because we vote to approve the agenda.
So we don't have any community
any
here and that
public-
doesn't seem
yeah,
very
not a public-
Are
transparent
they
to
on
do
live?
so.
Aren't they live? They have an option. to
It's just a
speak here.
recording on this and we don't
I
go
just don't
live.
understand why they have to be, usually why we have to do one and then the other. I'm fine to wait till December. I just,
Chris is raising
Yeah,
it.
my
Go ahead,
perspective
Chris.
is 3 and 4 were right. They're the same grade band configuration. And that goes back to us figuring out exactly what we want to fine tune it. We know it's going to be leaning towards that grade configuration and we know our baseline. We can do those minor tweaks and see what's going to be best and take a deep dive. There's not a whole lot of variant
Different, yeah.
between the
it's
two.
the third building versus the. it's the
Right,
third
and
shared
how we
building.
get there, and maybe as we talk through it, we can
Mhm.
look at, and not have it all being driven by just the building itself, but what offerings do we have, what opportunities do we have? What did you call it, Adam, for value adds?
Yeah.
So if we look at it, take a deeper dive and look at, okay, maybe we don't take this reduction in the staff here, but we add foreign language at the junior school or the middle school. Maybe that's the value add we prefer
Mhm.
instead of cutting 3 foreign language teachers at the high school because of
Right.
something like that. There's things that we need to have a deeper
Yeah,
discussion
deeper
in.
dive, and those are good things to talk about.
Absolutely.
Because
I
I'd love to
don't
do
have a
that.
problem with choosing a plan. My only problem would be choosing a price tag.
Right.
But if,
I don't think-
I think
yeah.
if the administration knows we're leaning towards a K-5, 6, 8, 9, 12, we can start working towards those to get, I think even at one of our businesses, we have a good, better, best type approach to it all. And look at that. And I think we can flow in between 3 and 4 pretty easily as
Right.
far as what we think is going to work for us as a community,
Right.
as long
'cause
as we know that grade bay configuration.
the thought of pulling this together and then just sharing it to with everybody prior to a meeting, it just doesn't feel like the right way to do it for me.
It's not enough time to really think about the
Right.
data.
I'm trying to prevent that.
Well, and also
We
having
appreciate that.
2 community meetings coming up on the 19th and the 24th. Now they can pose it as, our board is really we're really honing in on options 3 and 4. What do you think about, this shared third
Right.
building? And get, try and get some more feedback,
From
targeted
that.
feedback that way.
I think that's a great idea to narrow it down and really focus on those.
Yeah.
Does that address your concern?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Other questions, either from or to Mr. Zink or any of our team?
Thank you for the update. We're glad you made it back from the hurricane, Chris.
Yeah.
All right, is there anything further? Then I am going, thanks all for the team. Thank you for the work you'll do in the next month for us. We really appreciate that. Mr. Miller, anything else?
No, we'll be ready. I think it makes a lot of sense and I feel good about narrowing our options down to 2 tonight as we move forward, and we'll get feedback from our community and get ready for the next phases, and it's not just that third, and I keep looking over here because that's where the posters are. It's not just that third high school, it's total number of buildings and there's a lot to it. So I just think once we get our focus, then we know we can plan for what's next.
All right, Mr. Zink, anything else?
I don't have anything else at this time.
Okay,
Save your voice.
Board, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer.
Second it.
Mr. Adi, thank you. Mr. Zink,
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Ms. Bodie,
Yes.
Ms. Casper,
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor,
yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Passarge,
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield,
Yes.
Ms. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Zink, yes.
Thanks, everybody.